And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Thank you for joining us for the aviation portion of your broadcast. I'm meteorologist Emily Niebuhr, and it's October 14th, 2023. Let's take a look at your flying conditions. Looking for your Sunday morning, we do have several weak systems across the state. So again, nothing too intense, but still some low clouds and stratus. Again, red indicates IFR conditions, which indicates lower visibility, more challenging conditions for pilots, either fog, stratus, low clouds. We do have a low pressure system parked up along the North Arctic coast that's going to be causing widespread stratus along north of the Brooks Range for your Sunday morning. We also have a weakening system in the eastern Gulf of Alaska, and that's going to be causing some low fog and stratus off of the Panhandle and portions of the Kenai Peninsula, especially in higher terrain along the Alaska Range as well. By your Sunday afternoon, that low stratus and clouds mix out along the mountain ranges, so expect improved conditions. That low pressure system remains well in place. Again, low clouds and stratus for your Sunday afternoon as well. Also, a weak system impacting the western portions of the Gulf of Alaska for your Sunday afternoon. So again, lower visibilities near Kodiak and along the Kenai Peninsula. For your Monday morning, we're looking at still lots of widespread low clouds and stratus along the North Arctic coast with that stubborn low pressure system up there. And then still in the western portions of the Gulf of Alaska, especially Kodiak Island, again, Monday morning, a lot of low fog, low stratus and clouds, lower visibilities, a little bit of reduced visibilities and VFR conditions along the western Bering coast. By Monday afternoon, still low clouds and stratus along the North Arctic coast, reduced visibilities. We do have some lower clouds moving into portions off the Panhandle, and also that continues to linger, though mixes out a little bit by the Monday afternoon along the western Gulf of Alaska coast. Let's look at our individual passes. Anaktuvik Pass, we're going to start out with MVFR conditions, but IFR conditions by your Sunday afternoon due to that low up there in the Arctic. Similar conditions for your Sunday. MVFR conditions deteriorating to IFR by your afternoon hours. So go further south where there's more high pressure in place. Lake Clark, we're expecting VFR conditions for your Sunday. Rainy Pass, we're going to start out with some of that low clouds, but improve to VFR by the afternoon hours. For Windy Pass, same story. IFR conditions, but improved to VFR conditions with some mixing in the afternoon hours. Same in Isabel Pass. Low clouds in the morning, but we're improving by the afternoon hours. Mentasta Pass, expect IFR conditions improving to VFR conditions. Tahitna Pass, seeing that same story. IFR in the morning, but much better by the afternoon for your visibilities. Meanwhile, low clouds and stratus are going to remain in place across Portage for your Sunday. Some of that marine low-level stratus is going to be impacting you. Meanwhile, in the Panhandle, a lot of the low-level clouds are going to be staying off in the Gulf of Alaska, so we're expecting VFR conditions for both White and Chilkoot for your Sunday. Looking at our freezing levels, we have two main systems across the Arctic. Mostly we have cold air in place across the Bering into portions of western Alaska. We do have a ridge. We have some warmer air freezing levels up to 8,000 feet as you go into the Yukon, but rapidly going towards 2,000 feet as you go further west. Meanwhile, you can see the remnants of that typhoon moving into the south of the Aleutian Islands, and so rapid warming with that system, so up to 10,000 feet south of the Aleutian Islands. So those are the main systems. Again, generally across much of the state, we're looking at freezing levels at 2,000 feet. For your Sunday, we have some isolated moderate and a few places of considerable moderate associated with that Arctic low and some low-level development, and also along the portions of the Alaska Range. Meanwhile, with that system in the western Gulf of Alaska, expect mostly isolated moderate icing, but a few patches of considerable moderate. And then we do have some icing associated with some of that warm air and moisture associated with that remnant typhoon. For your jet stream, our greatest winds right now, again, we're not too active right now, so our greatest winds, you have to go into portions of Canada, 120 knots at 30,000 feet. We have much weaker jets, westerly jet across western portions of the Bering at 75 knots, and another separate jet of 70 to 80 knots across the Alaska Peninsula. At 9,000 feet, you can see some of, again, remnant about 40 knots from the northwest across the Bering. We do have some stronger winds associated with that remnant typhoon. Again, it's a little farther south. But we also have some southerly winds coming in across portions of the Gulf of Alaska and into the Alaska Peninsula and into the Kenai Peninsula at about 50 knots. As we go even lower, we still have, about 3,000 feet, some winds of about 50 knots coming in across towards the mountains. But most of the state is going to be seeing fairly calm conditions at 3,000 feet. Meanwhile, we have some very strong winds, 15 knots, even stronger as you go further south off this map. But again, associated with that remnant typhoon. So strong winds across much of the Aleutians. As a result, we're expecting those winds to interact with the topography. So expect some considerable moderate turbulence, especially in some of that steep terrain in the central Aleutians and western Aleutians. And some of that jet is going to be impacting the Alaska range as well. Much weaker jet, but you could still see some considerable moderate turbulence and channeled terrain on your Sunday.